Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a really fascinating geopolitical shift that happened back in 2025, the absolutely surprising new partnership between the United States and Cambodia. This is a story about how a relationship that was tense for decades turned into a powerful, reciprocal, strategic alliance.
I mean, seriously, how did this happen? Just a few years earlier, this would have seemed totally impossible. There was so much mistrust on both sides. So what on earth changed to make this unlikely partnership a reality?
Well, the answer really lies in this idea right here, a totally new model for foreign policy. This alliance wasn't built on shared values like democracy. Nope, it was built on a really clear-eyed calculation of what each side could get from the other. Understanding this transactional approach is the key to unlocking this entire story.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll look at the strategy that kicked it off, the massive economic stakes that forced everyone's hand, how they rebuilt their military ties, and the big philosophical shift that made it all possible.
Okay, so where did this whole thing begin? Well, it all started with a new leader in Cambodia who had a very unique and very American background.
And that leader is Prime Minister Hun Manet. Now, the fact that he graduated from West Point, the famous U.S. military academy, wasn't just some interesting piece of trivia. It became his secret weapon. He got the American military and political culture from the inside, and he used that unique understanding to open doors that had been slammed shut for years.
And his strategy was incredibly smart and methodical. It was really a three-step plan. First, he could literally speak the language of Washington's power players. Then he used his old contacts to build back channels. And here's the clincher. He started to pivot away from relying solely on China. That move gave him brand new leverage with the U.S.
But, good communication and smart strategy are one thing. The real catalyst, the thing that lit a fire under this whole process, was a massive economic crisis that was about to bring Cambodia to its knees.
The stakes were just immense. Take a look at this. A full 40% of Cambodia's total exports went to the U.S. market. That's a huge number, and it meant their entire economy was incredibly vulnerable. Washington held a lot of the cards.
And in early 2025, that vulnerability turned into a full-on crisis. This number, 49%, was basically an economic doomsday scenario. The U.S. announced a potential tariff that high, which threatened to just wipe out Cambodia's crucial textile and leather industries literally overnight.
So with their back against the wall, Cambodia came to the table ready to make a deal. And what they hammered out was a perfect example of that transactional partnership. Cambodia offered access for U.S. goods and, this is huge, promised transparency at its Ream naval base. In return, the U.S. offered economic survival, slashing that killer tariff way down.
Okay, so the economic crisis was handled, and that just threw the door wide open for the partnership to grow into another area that had been completely frozen for years: defense.
In November 2025, they signed this landmark agreement, the KL Accords. And this wasn't just some small step. It was a complete reversal of an 8-year-long suspension of military ties. It was a total reset of their security relationship.
And the speed of it all was just stunning. I mean, look at this timeline. We're talking about a few weeks. The long-standing U.S. arms embargo gets lifted. A little over a week later, they're planning to bring back joint military exercises. And just 5 days after that, U.S. warships can dock in Cambodia again. It was a whirlwind, and it showed both sides were all in.
And this cooperation went way beyond just traditional military stuff. They started tackling modern threats, like working together to shut down those awful cybercrime and scam call centers. And the U.S. even stepped in as a mediator in regional conflicts, really cementing its new influential role in the area.
So the big question is, what made all of this possible? How did two countries with such different political systems actually manage to bridge that gap? Well, it took a really fundamental shift in priorities, especially from the U.S. side of things. And the guiding philosophy behind that shift has a name: realpolitik. It sounds complicated, but it's pretty simple. It's about focusing on what's practical, on what's in your national interest, instead of getting hung up on ideological differences about things like democracy or human rights. It's about what works.
And you can see the stark difference right here. For years, the U.S. approach was to publicly pressure Cambodia about its internal politics. But the 2025 approach? It was a trade. The U.S. basically stopped the public criticism in exchange for public support on foreign policy. And for Washington, getting another ally in Southeast Asia was a huge win, especially with China's growing influence.
And the results? Well, they were pretty significant for both sides. The US helped mediate a regional ceasefire and got a solid partner in the super important ASEAN group. And Cambodia? They secured their economy, got a powerful new diplomatic friend, and felt a lot safer doing business with the West. It was a win-win.
So this whole incredible turnaround leaves us with a really big question for the future. In a world that's getting more and more complex, is this kind of pragmatic, what's in it for me approach the new blueprint for how countries are going to deal with each other on the world stage?